my name is Bryant Santana, and the purpose of my speech is to inform you of the benefits that SNAP actually offers as opposed to the disadvantages, which are the myths that many people offer. SNAPs is basically food stamps. My surprising statistic that I'm going to give you is that the average American household has a net income of $338. The relevance to the audience is that you guys as college students are very prone to starting new families one day. And the fact that you need to understand that when you start these families, you're not going to be without a degree, you're going to be in a disadvantage. And you need to understand that when you tell people that food stamps are bad, it's actually a big help for everybody. The numbers of families that are increasing dependency on food stamps is increasing, and including the college students. The purpose of my speech is to convince you that families use this money out of necessity and not out of need, they use this money out of necessity, not for just pure free money that they can use for food. The eligibility is the way I'm going to preview this message to you is through the eligibility and how it is regulated through the government. The gross monthly income of the dependence on food stamps is going to be 130% over poverty, and the minimum is going to be 100% below poverty. Undocumented immigrants are not eligible to receive food stamps. Many Americans are confused with this common statistic because they believe that undocumented immigrants are eligible for food stamps, but in reality, they're not. The next kind of worker is the green card workers that have to wait a strict guideline of 5 years in order to receive their benefits. And by then, there's only 3% of actually food stamps holders actually have green cards. Now, while one may argue these statistics, another important fact is the dependency on food stamps. Most families that have food stamps you typically go within their first 90% of their funds within the first three weeks of the month, meaning that for the fourth month, most of them have to go to America's food banks in order to put food on the table. This is a common misconception because most people believe that with food stamps they can provide enough food for themselves or many others. ARRA is a grant done by the federal government in November 1st of the year 2000, which is going to be expired on November 1st of the year 2013. And essentially, it'll cut $360 worth of food stamps per year for every family, which has a negative effect. Now, I get this statistic from the edible food items. The integrity of the program. The integrity of the program is based that there's only been the error rate declined from 3.71% to 3.1% with the negativity. And most Americans would argue that maybe there's disunion amongst how food stamps are distributed and they're given out unfairly in amounts to different numbers of families. The Food and Nutrition Act, which was passed in 1985, was passed in order to give a strict regulation on what items could be purchased. For example, you couldn't purchase hot foods, tobacco, cigarettes, or any kind of household items with your food stamps. You can only purchase foods that are deemed as edible by the U.S. Congress. Many people argue that maybe the food stamps need to be regulated more because a lot of people buy unhealthy foods such as heavy meats or sweeteners, candy, toys. And I get this statistic from the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Family Reform. Now, while food stamps cannot be reformed, food stamps cannot be completely reformed because it would take a national act of Congress. One can argue that the myths that are commonly created about food stamps come from our daily experiences, and we actually don't understand what's the purpose of why we have families that are dependent on food stamps. Many families today are very dependent on food stamps because they require that to get by day. And of course, even though the media comes and they put down that maybe there's one person had an improper use of food stamps and maybe was selling them, and this brings a whole negative impact image idea of food stamps. But in reality, it's one person to every hundreds of thousands of families that are starving every day in order to keep food on the table. I hope I persuaded you in understanding that the next time you see somebody swiping that EBT card, you think twice before you make a snickering remark in order to trouble them. Now, as you can notice, I did inform you of the strict regulations of SNAP that are already in place, and that it is for just families in need.